For like 2 decades, One Piece fans have been waiting for this reveal. Waiting for Dr. Vegapunk's overall identity to be showed to the entire community. It is something that has been speculated on, so many theories, so many discussions, and many people wondered what would Oda do with the overall design. Because over the years, before obviously this came out for the anime and we got the official design within the manga chapters, people were constantly writing their own fan theories of what, Vegapunk would look like, to maybe what Devil Fruit Vegapunk would have, to maybe like if Vegapunk is a good person, a bad person, because there's a lot of things within the story of One Piece that, implied that Vegapunk wasn't necessarily quote unquote an evil person, but he clearly was working on the wrong side. So where he would align with the Straw Hat crew, depending on where the story would go, was something always up in the air for a lot of discussion. So when you see this episode, it is nice to finally see color and movement added to Dr. Vegapunk, or at least one entity of Dr. Vegapunk, as we can clearly see here with the 02 on Lilith's chest. I really enjoy just like this entire episode and the very vibe and tone that Egghead provides, but also what the anime is actually doing for this arc. If there is one scene in particular that really shined to me, like when I was watching this episode, was definitely this segment here where Luffy just takes a good look at all of Egghead. And when you see Egghead here, and you see the different fish, you see the way the overall animation art is done, it's very simplistic to a degree, but it shows this very fantastical world, this very sci-fi-ish world, honestly, stuff that we have not necessarily ever seen in the One Piece series. And I want to talk about that because I noticed, ever since this arc came out in the manga, and now with the anime and anime only's getting kind of their first real glimpse at it, there's a lot of people that are overall just excited for this arc, and it kind of came out of nowhere because let's think about it. When you think about, like, overall arcs and islands and stuff that many people have been excited for a very long time, Wano was obviously one of them, because it was talked about, it was built up for literally over a decade within the anime and kind of in the manga, so people wanted to see Kaido, they wanted to see, just Wano's arc, everything about that, it was built up. And then when you think of other arcs, you think of, like, Elbaf, the Giant's Land and all that. That is an arc that is continuously, or an island that's continuously been built up and discussed, about within the community for a very long time. While Egghead is, an island that really nobody knew about at all until this arc came out. We knew Dr. Vegapunk was working somewhere, we just didn't know necessarily where. And so finally having, like, that confirmation in the island that he is currently on being revealed to us, it comes out of nowhere. It just hits you right in the side of your face. You did not expect it, and it is just a nice little whiplash from the arc that we were currently in within One Piece. Because when you look at Wano, it was like, a medieval Japan. It was, Japan back in the ancient times with shoguns, katana users, swordsmiths, all that type of stuff. It was a very traditional Japanese setting. While while Egghead goes a complete 180, and it is just super sci-fi-ish. And anyone that, like, looks at, this episode can see kind of what Oda was going for here. That he was like paying homage to the origin point of anime itself. And FYI here, if anyone doesn't know, Astro Boy was like the first ever anime ever created in Japan. And I know there's a lot of people out there that might not know what Astro Boy is. They might not have ever even watched it or read it, whatever. But Astro Boy, regardless if it is intentional or not, everything kind of stems from it. That is the origin point of anime. And I think that in terms of designs and the way that this arc is presented, it is a nod to the origin of anime. And it is something that I like to see. I like seeing just history currently on display with Egghead's arc. And so when you see just the design of this city, it just, you're reminded of that type of setting, like this futuristic sci-fi setting of Astro Boy or different fantasy or sci-fi-ish series. It's really cool. And also why this arc works just so well is because it is just such a clash of themes in comparison to what One Piece is normally like. Let's get into that one. So when we think about One Piece's story in its entirety, It's obviously pirates. It's people that sells the sea. They go from island to island. They have different cultures, different weather. We know this. We have seen many mysterious things throughout the verse of One Piece. And we know that there is advanced technology through the ancient weapons to just seeing, like, for instance, someone like Kuma to the pacifistas. We know that there is, like, a high degree of technology. But there's never been, let's say, an arc dedicated to that. An island dedicated to the overall vast technological advancement of this world. Because most of the time when we go from arc to arc, it's just a very like medieval setting, and even if it kind of encroaches upon being modern, it still feels like it is an era that suits pirates. So when you look at this arc, it is just so different. And I feel like if a lot of One Piece arcs had all this sci-fi technology and was constantly like robotic like this, I feel like not as many people would have enjoyed Egghead as much as they currently are within the manga, but also the anime. Now, obviously, there's more to Egghead than just the setting, but obviously this episode was really just about kind of introducing the setting of the island and what to expect going forward within this arc. And I think that the very showcasing of it is very powerful, and I think that Toei Animation did a good job with it. Now, there is a few things I do want to talk about, which I saw a lot of people complaining about, or I saw someone complaining about. It wasn't a lot of people, actually, correction, but it does need to be mentioned because this is a common topic that is continuously mentioned when it comes to the One Piece anime, and that is the pacing. So this post right here, this individual posted this and said that this was a single panel. And I think that this is relevant to discussion. This is a very valid thing to talk about, and I think that, this individual pointing it out is worthy of discussion, because it gets into the core problems kind of with One Piece is One Piece's anime in its entirety, because there is issues with One Piece's anime. So basically this entire sequence, as you can see here, is one panel within the manga. I don't obviously have the panel pulled up to really kind of do a cross comparison, but I know Toei has done this enough, so I pretty much believe this. They do stretch out content, they do that type of stuff, so this is a very believable sequence that they would stretch out this whole little entirety from just one panel from the manga. Now, is this a bad thing? Is this a good thing? There's a lot of ways to really talk about this, and many people are going to take different viewpoints from this and say they really enjoyed this, they really hated this, and then they're going to say, like, this is the why, like, I watched the One Piece anime. Some are going to say this is why I don't watch One Piece, because of just the way the scene is presented. Because, obviously, if you were unaware, One Piece's anime is usually just, like, it adapts half a chapter to almost a chapter per episode. With the way they do recaps, to the way they do opening songs, and now even the ending song, and then this little stuff at the end here where, like, they talk about different characters and abilities and stuff, it's clear that Toei is trying to use as much time for their time bracket as possible without really progressing the manga very quickly, or the anime too quickly to catch up with the manga. So there's always been these little cuts and corner cuts and stuff they've done over the years, for decades now, to try to not catch up with the manga, which is kind of like the curse of a long-running anime, which is why long-running anime don't normally work as well as they do nowadays, because, just people rather properly paced content than something that is weekly and just stretching out the time bracket. So Toei has obviously done this for a long time, and so the whole little sequence of this being just one panel and all that, you can see why some people would be annoyed with this, because it is, at the end of the day, even if this is good content and people are happy to see expanded upon little scenes like this that do add more life and character to, like, Bonnie and Luffy and Chopper, to the reaction to Egghead, it is technically there to waste time. That's what it is, even if it is good content. That is the actual purpose of it being there. Now, this gets into that gray area that I mentioned at the beginning of this topic, is that, many people are going to have different perspectives to say this is good or bad. Personally, I think expanding upon character interactions and having a little bit of world building, or how they view the world from the arc, and it just expands upon a panel, I see nothing wrong with that. I wish Toei did that more, because anyone that remembers certain scenes, let's say even from Wano or even Dressrosa, knows Toei has a problem with having, like, a still frame on the screen, and then they keep showing it. Like, you'll have the characters moving or running or whatever, and then they'll go back to the still frame that slightly shifts onto the screen, and then they'll go back to the characters running, and then they'll do that again. And this is obviously a way for Toei to waste time. And I prefer this over that. Like, I prefer them extending a panel and having a lot of movement going on and interaction than just a still frame just paneling over the entire episode screen. So you could see which is actually better. But, I wanted to bring this up because I saw some complaints about it, that the pacing might be an issue. And will it? Probably. In traditional One Piece fashion, there always is pacing problems with the anime, regardless of how good it is. Even Wano at its peak, with some of the greatest episodes we've ever seen in the entirety of One Piece, Wano is riddled with a lot of bad paced episodes, and I don't think anyone that is, no one's really trying to deny that. The only way you deny that is if you're like a mega One Piece fan that really just cannot take any form of criticism, and that's all I see anyone really defending that. Because just because you dislike the pacing doesn't mean you hate One Piece. Just, it's completely two different topics. But, anyways, besides all of that, though, I think overall, great episode, great introduction to Egghead. I love the introduction to, the different Vega Punks and all that, the different designs. It's a very comfy and different arc than what we had recently with Wano, and it's just going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait to see what they do with certain scenes and all that, and how Bonnie scenes are done, and see how people overreact on Twitter thanks to it. It's going to be fun. But anyways, you all have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. It does help me out a lot. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed this episode of One Piece or you enjoyed my video on it. But Chibi out.